Oh, you're such a great group. Well, good morning again. I feel as if I've said welcome at least 4 times already during this summit, but it's always a new group, different session that we're having, and always a pleasure to have the opportunity to say hello to so many of you. I had a quick chat as I was walking in with one of the participants who said, I had no idea what I was coming to, but I'm loving it. So that's the kind of stuff you like to hear when you're starting on your second day. We have people from about 40 different communities in the room, from about 150 different organizations. It's probably the biggest gathering we've ever had, so province-wide, of so many different organizations who populate the community sector. So it's a wonderful opportunity for conversation, discussion, and for celebrating the work of the nonprofit community sector. I think what's really interesting about our session today is that we're not only celebrating the social value and the benefit that we typically understand about the community sector, but this is kind of an opportunity for us to say, you know what, our organization really contributes to the economy of the province as well. We create jobs, but we also make our communities places where businesses and corporations might like to set up business. So we play a really significant role in the way in which our province works. The rollout of this work plan, the Community Sector Action Plan, is really a pivotal point in the development of the community sector in our province. For many years, thousands of organizations and thousands of people have been advocating on behalf of the community sector, have been encouraging people to understand the genuine value of what we do. But I think over the last couple of years, we've actually been realizing that we need to do things to help our sector grow, to be more sustainable, and to make sure that we have organizations that are able to attract the kind of volunteers we want, to give volunteers good opportunities, and to have the kind of leadership we want at both a board and an employee level. It is the work of all of these organizations that has really created the climate which has enabled us to arrive at the point that we are, where we have the Premier and his ministers and so many of you here to actually put in place and to launch and to talk about a very rigorous action plan. This is not a piece of fluff. The fact of the matter is we have 31 actions that are timelined, that have leadership assigned to each of those actions. So the fact of the matter is, Premier, you and numerous departments, the Community Sector Council and all of our colleagues can be held accountable. We can see if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and if we're not doing it, then I guess we'll have to have another summit and have a serious conversation. There are a couple of other points I really want to make. Last spring, Newfoundland Statistical Agency did a first cut to look at the number of people who are employed in our sector. And we eliminated all the big charities like the university and hospitals and a number of other kinds of agencies, even though they're part of the charitable sector. And we were able to show a minimum of 1,600 jobs created in the nonprofit sector. That's a very important piece of information because it means we're one of the bigger employers in the province if you look at us all collectively. And that's, I think, the kind of thing that tweaked the Premier and Cabinet's interest a year and a half ago when they said, bingo, maybe we need to be looking at the community sector as an industry sector in much the same way we look at mining or forestry or technology. So it's an easy thing to say. This work plan, which came 18 months after that original bingo, is how we're going to start achieving that kind of growth in our sector. But I want to say it's not just about creating jobs or even the indirect and induced jobs that we create. It is really about how we can do our economy a bit differently. It's about how we can develop our economy but by looking at community-driven solutions. It's about making our organizations more sustainable, whether they are organizations that are fully run by volunteers or organizations that also have employees. It's about helping organizations find ways to diversify our funding, our revenue sources. And for those who work in the sector, it is really about ensuring that we create, produce, and maintain decent work. Work that is seen as comparable to working in other sectors, and work that is valued, and where we know we can value the employees and the people who work in our sector, so that we can continue to attract and maintain the people that we need to make working in our sector really a career of choice. And at this point, most of us tend to think that many people just join our sector as a way through somewhere else. But I think there are some of us, and there are many examples of people in this room who have made their careers in the nonprofit sector and who do have good incomes and good working conditions, but there are many more who don't. But to achieve the objectives I've just outlined, there are a number of things we really have to do. We have to find a way to support risk-taking. We have to find a way to enable our organizations to be able to try things and fail. It's really tough in our sector to learn from failing. If you run a big corporation, and you only have to look at the successful business people in Newfoundland and Labrador to know that virtually everybody who's really done well has some enormous failure that they've learned from, and they've picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, and moved along to do it all over again. In our world, that's a very tough thing to achieve. And that's why we are quite convinced that we really need to find ways to create some strategic investments to try social innovation that we recognize will not always succeed. So that's a very big, it's slipped away in one of the 31 actions, so we can hold everybody accountable to that. But this is also about how we can and need to ramp up research and development in our sector so that we understand more clearly what it is we're doing well, what impact we're having, and what we can do to drive ourselves into the future. Why do we even bother doing any of this? We do it because every single day, every person in this room and every member of the population of Newfoundland and Labrador benefits from something that some of your organizations are doing. You get up, whenever you get up in the morning, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and when you go to bed, if you just think about this, how many times you are supported or getting the benefit from a nonprofit, whether you're walking on a trail, whether you're taking your children to sports or going into some sporting activity yourself, history, heritage, social services, whether it's somebody who's managing the crosswalk to get your children into schools or food lunch programs. We are entirely dependent on the people who run nonprofits and the volunteers and the staff who drive them. And that's why it's important that we're doing what we're doing here now. So just to finish, the fact of the matter is, without the community sector and all of your organizations, there would be nothing in this province. You wouldn't be able to create more business opportunity. You wouldn't be able to be trying new things in the health and community service world unless you could turn to these organizations and to make sure that they can help out. But if we're going to do that well, we really have to focus on these actions, make this happen, so that when we come back here next year, we can start ticking off some of the successes. By the time we get 3 or 4 years down the road, perhaps when we're having this summit, we will be talking about our successes. And the one thing I know for sure is that there are only, so many of us here in the room. The reality is that thousands of people across the province are going to be watching us. There are a lot of eyes on you, Premier, and your government, on the Community Sector Council, and on all of our colleagues to make sure that we get this right, that this is not just a little bit of a launch today or an official launch and then it just sort of goes downhill. So we will be tracking, we'll be keeping track of what we're doing, and we'll all be moving forward together. So now, it's my pleasure. I want to do just one quick thing, Premier, before I introduce you. A lot of this work has been done by a group of leaders, people who have expended their careers, their lives in moving the community sector forward. Their names are all listed in your program, and I would really suggest that you have a good look to see who they are. But I'm just going to ask you all to stand up, the members of the Community Sector Working Committee, people who've really put their heart and soul into this work over the last couple of years. And there's not a community that hasn't benefited from the work and the type of work that these individuals do. These are the leaders, the stalwarts, who've been working in the trenches for years without ever having the wonderful support that we have in this work plan. So now it's my pleasure, Premier, to introduce you and to call on you to roll out the work plan, if you will. And, you know, sometimes you're asked to introduce people, and it's a really tough job. Like you got nothing you really want to say about them. You kind of, you know, pretzel yourself a little bit while you do it. But I have to say, some people are also easy to introduce. And I find it really easy to introduce you. And the reason I find it easy to introduce you is because I kind of have the perception that you care. I also have the perception that you have a bit of foresight, and that you're willing to take a few risks, and that you're willing to try to push us all forward. I think I'd probably describe you as somebody who's willing to venture forward. And that's what this is all about. It's about how we can work together, how we can accelerate change. And I always say one of the things that I like most about you is that I've never been in your presence when you've been looking over my shoulder to see if there's somebody better to talk to. Which is what an awful lot of public figures do. Now, I don't know whether that's genuine or whether it's a learned art, but in any rate, in any case, it's a wonderful skill.
Well, thank you, Penny. If you see us looking down at some of those screens, there's timers on those screens. So we know that we've got a lot of great people that we want to hear from this morning, and this is really meant to keep us on track. But so, Penny, thank you very much. And I will say, yeah, it is genuine when people are talking and I listen. You know, I'm not always going to agree. That's what makes challenge functions and conversations so beneficial to all of us. But it really gives us the opportunity to share those ideas. So those discussions, I will tell you, are very genuine. And good morning, and it's certainly my pleasure to be here. I've learned already from embedded in one of the 31 action points in our sector plan is that failure is okay. And I will say, of spending quite a bit of my life involved in community organizations, could have been sporting, it could have been social programs, and then politics on a national level. I agree that if you must be able to take risks from time to time, because without risks, the status quo is really not progressive at all, and is really will set you back. So I agree with the fact that from time to time we must challenge ourselves and really get out there on those limbs, and that failure from time to time is okay. Repeating failure is not okay. So I am really impressed with the turnout that we have here today, and what makes this morning so special is that we're talking about so many things that impact our province, both socially and economically. I know that there are many others that are in the room could not attend. This is really just a small group of the thousands of people that we have working in our communities, and some of them are at their jobs and desks this morning in their communities, and some of them are watching on Facebook. So this is one of the benefits of social media, and I want to welcome all of them to this session as well. So thank you very much. I also want to thank you for what has really been a never-ending commitment that you have, your energy and your drive to make our communities in this province a better place to live. Some of you have had a tremendous impact, both not just in your community, not just in Newfoundland and Labrador, but nationally as well. I also know that your work is not easy, because I've been in my previous life, I've been in the chairs that you sit in some type of capacity. I also know that when people come through your doors and they're looking for services, that we genuinely want to be able to offer those services and improve the outcomes and make this place a better place to live and work and to raise your family. So I've seen that firsthand. I also know that growing up and raising a family and operating a small business sometimes in some very difficult environments in rural Newfoundland and Labrador is not always easy. But it's your organizations that I will tell you that makes this province the unique place it is to work and to raise your family. It could be from playing sports. And over this past weekend, we were trying to organize some things, because I'd still like to dabble in some of the things that make us real, some of the things that we used to do on a regular basis. So we're speaking about some of the sporting things that were happening in the community where I live. And I was reminded of some elderly. They were retired at the time, but they were the people that would open up the stadium for us at 6 a.m. in the morning, as if they had nothing better to do. And they would show up at 6 a.m. in the morning and get us in for minor hockey, and then making sure that we got home safe so we could get to school. You know, these are the types of volunteers and community-led organizations that we have. All of us, I get a chance to attend many summer and winter festivals. This is what many people in this room do. It's about a world-class tourism industry. The necessary, what you do is add the supports that make those successful. I live in one of the most remarkable places, and all of us, you know, we feel that way. We're so proud of our community. Well, I live in Homer-Gross-Mourne, so I will tell you that I get an opportunity to see many people pass through my district, and it's a large district. From the northeastern end of my district in Jackson's Arm right up to Belburns, it's essentially a 4 or 5 hour drive. So we'll tell you to go to my district, but I will tell you, if you're driving through there, Colleen, you know what I'm talking about. It's just absolutely beautiful. So now, as I fast forward those years into where I am today as Premier, I still enjoy interacting with groups in our province. So I look to many of you, and there's a lot of familiar faces here in this room, and I was thinking this morning as I was up and starting to go over some of the notes that have been put together, people that I've met over my almost 9 years in politics in our province already, and I wonder where the time has gone. I remember first meeting Lisa Davis in southern Labrador, Selena Stoyles. These are people that are making a difference. Colleen Kennedy, I've mentioned Colleen already, and I know the great work that she's doing in Homer-Gross-Mourne. And these are just a few examples, and we know that we're going to hear from many, many more. But every single chair in this room this morning is filled by somebody that has made a difference in someone's life. And I want to congratulate you for that. But I also want to personally thank Penny, your board, your team, and your council for the work that you have done in being the champion of this. We did chat quite some time ago, and we've had many chats since about the importance of this. And I've gotten to know Penny, and she made a few comments about me. And lots of times, I know we've met in little grocery stores or wherever it is, but we've always taken time to listen to each other's points of views of how important this sector is. 16,000 people. Think of that. There's 47,000 people that work in government, 16,000. I don't know of an industry in this province outside of government that employs more people. So I appreciate the relationship that we've had, the candor, the honesty. It's all important, because that's the types of conversations that we need to have with each other. So the value of this sector, the partnerships that we've been able to put in place, you will also see that reflected in the team of ministers that we have within government and all our MHAs. So we all collectively recognize the deep roots that community organizations have in our province. We see them as residents because of the constituents that we speak to. We see them as MHAs, and we see them as ministers, and I will guarantee you, as Premier, I see it as well. So community organizations, as you all know, you're the front lines in creating accessible, what is inclusive, age-friendly communities. I don't see growing old as a negative, by the way. I see that as a good option. So when people talk about aging in our communities, I just look for the experience. So you all support healthier, more active communities and giving a helping hand to people when they need it the most. Now, many other organizations deliver significant economic benefits, attracting new investments to Newfoundland and Labrador. And I remember in my own life, one of the things I was asked to do way back, maybe 15 years ago now, it was how do we get telecommunications? It was at a time when broadband wasn't available in the area where I lived. So we brought 4 communities together and we knocked on the doors of ACOA and the provincial government, just like you're doing today, I know. And we wanted to make sure we could get that into a community. We did it successfully because we had a great team of people that was working with us. These are the types of things that you're doing, promoting transportation, infrastructure, clusters of economic activity leading to new businesses. We're seeing this all over our province today. But also, what you're doing is you're often filling the gaps of areas where the private sector was just not feasible to step in. So quite simply, you play a massive role in our province. I couldn't imagine Newfoundland and Labrador without the impact of people like you in this room, both the social and the economic impact that you're having. It's dramatic. So the sector plan was released in April. Along with this conference, it will capture the importance of the place and the relationship that we will build on. It stems from the very productive conversations that we've had with community groups last fall and giving us now the opportunity to fully digest the issues, but also the opportunities that may be holding the sector back from achieving its maximum potential. So collectively, we can be part and be very proud of the level of cooperation and collaboration that we've had with the Way Forward with community. I think the booklets are part of your kits. So what we're committing to do is that together we can chart the course, overcome those challenges, strengthen your reach, and celebrate the successes that you've had. So together, our part of the work plan, we will also undertake important work, which means, and we've had some success with this in industry and in tendering, is making sure the application processes, all those applications that you fill out to government, become streamlined and you can move through those programs faster. It means developing a training plan for the community sector employees. That is extremely important, so people are relevant of where we are in 2020 and beyond. Highlighting the importance of volunteerism and the availability of careers, making sure that people in the K-12 system recognize that this is a career opportunity, that this is not just, as Penny said, a stepping stone onto some other future job. Reducing the time that it takes departments to make decisions on programs and services, putting consumer-like timelines in place, and evaluating, which I know is something important to all of you, the multi-year funding arrangements that we have within government. So I'm pleased to announce that earlier this week we will begin to seek input into the current recipients and the wider community sector to help inform the next steps on the multi-year funding. You will be able to access the questionnaire. It will be online, Engage Now, which is becoming a fabulous tool that we're using inside the government. So these actions will all foster the conditions that are necessary for vibrant community organizations that contribute to the mere fabric of Newfoundland and Labrador. As you know, in this year's budget, we put in $2.5 million to assist in implementing such elements of the Way Forward with community as professional development, as well as collaboration and partnerships for community sector organizations. This is in addition to the $115 million that was allocated for funding for community groups. So today, through our conversations and our panel discussions, we are taking important steps towards developing actions that will allow us to achieve our shared objectives. So we have a great team with me here today. I see Dr. John Hagee is with us. We have Christopher Mitchemore, just in from a flight. We see Lisa Dempster from Labrador and Parliamentary Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation. Sarah, where are you to? She is there we go. Sarah's a newly elected MHA in Mount Sil. She's joining us here today. And if you see her on her phone, she's also participating, I guess, in the committee that's ongoing that she's responsible for as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the insights of people like you in this room. Quite simply, all of us, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about what's working and what's not. So we share the commitment of best utilizing resources and working collaboratively. We and I, like you in this room, want to make this place, want to make Newfoundland and Labrador the best place to live, work, and to raise our family. So as I wrap up, we'll start Monday morning with a very short video that highlights the rich contributions that you have made to Newfoundland and Labrador. So thank you very much.
So your little video just talked about the impact of community organizations, and that's where we're heading now in the next session. We have 9 outstanding leaders from 9 different organizations from different communities across the province who are going to join with the Premier and his ministers in groups of 3. And these individuals have been given only 3 minutes to talk about their work and their organizations, the impact they've had, and perhaps some of the challenges they're facing. So we're going to work with these 9 individuals in 3 groups, 3 separate panels who will be asked to come up here on the stage in a minute, and they will make the presentations, then engage in conversation with the ministers, and then another group will come up and we'll go through the same process, and then we'll do it again. And then we will have a break, and then all 9 of these individuals will be up on the stage. But you all have the opportunity, as you're listening to these presentations, I think you all have received a pen and a card on your chair. And if you have questions you'd like to pose to the organizations, we ask that you write them down, and we'll collect them during the break. And then my co-moderator, Katie Norman, will be handling all of these questions and making sure that we get through the majority of the questions in a fairly short period before we go into lunch. So Katie and I will be moderating. We also have assigned somebody to act as convener, Bettina Ford. Is Bettina here? I'm over here. Bettina, who is a volunteer resource coordinator with the CSC's office in Gander has been given a job that only Bettina could probably handle. Her job is to keep everyone on target and on time. So she has ways of ensuring that. But what you don't know is that there's also a clock here which has 3 minutes on it, and the time is ticking down. So when the panel members are here, they need to watch out because Bettina can see that clock as well. And so we don't have any tolerance, or very little tolerance, for people going overtime. But probably, if you think about it, if you can't say it in 3 minutes, it's probably, you need to do some more homework. And some of you will have looked at your program and you'll see that we were taking a break after the first 2 groups, but we've made a little bit of a switch here. So we want to make sure that we finish up about 5 to 11 or 11 o'clock so you can get a good 15 or 20-minute break. Give us time to collect those questions and then come back for the wrap-up by 12:30. 12 o'clock, sorry. Wrap up by 12 o'clock for lunch. Katie, I think we've covered everything we need to cover. If I could ask the first group of participants to come to the stage, please.
I'm going to use this mic here. Gentlemen, if I could have power, please. Thanks so much. Okay, so yes, with the clock, I just wanted to let everybody know we had a bit of a debate as to the psychology of the timing. Should the clock count up from 1 to 3 minutes, or should it count down? We decided on down, so it's like lift off, okay? We're seeing it in a positive way. So the first 3 panelists, I'm pleased to welcome to the stage. First, and I would like to add, it is this woman's birthday today, and she's chosen to spend it with us. It is Lisa Davis Ryland, and Lisa is Executive Director of the Community Youth Network for Southern Labrador. So Lisa, if you'd come take your seat, and we'll hold our applause till I bring up all 3, please. And then we have Colleen Kennedy, who is Executive Director with Grossmorn Cooperating Association. Colleen. And Hassan Hai, who is the President of the Newfoundland and Labrador Beard and Mustache Club. And on stage, joining the Premier and Penny, we have Minister John Haggie. So we'd like to welcome them all, and maybe a shout out of happy birthday to Lisa. Happy birthday.
And Bettina, I'm just going to say what I was told when I was asking about the clock. I'm told that when it hits 3, I wondered if it was an alarm, and I was told, no, you'd get an electric shock. So.
No, I'm not known for electric shocks. That's not normally my method of choice. It'll be something more like this. Yoo-hoo. Okay, we're friendly in Gander like that, Penny. Okay, so they're going to have the clock. So our AV people, right, Minister Haggie? Absolutely. So our AV specialists here, when Lisa starts to talk, they'll start the 3 minutes, and then when Lisa, you're done, we'll move on to Colleen and Hassan. Okay?
Thank you.
For it.
Good morning. Community Youth Network is a provincial organization with 34 sites across our great province, spreading from the southern shore of Newfoundland to the most northern tip of the mainland in Nain, Labrador, and many points in between. As a provincial organization, we have the common fundamentals, but yet we're all very different. It is not a simple cookie-cutter approach, because what may work in Port Hope Simpson, Labrador, may not work in St. Lawrence, Newfoundland, and vice versa. When the CYN initiative was rolled out some 19 years ago, there were initially 9 sites in our province. Today, there are 34. Now that's a way forward. While our focus may be on youth ages 12 to 18, we do offer supportive services for ages 5 to 29. The impacts that community youth networks have on our provinces have just been phenomenal. Our CYN is a one-stop shop. We have built various community partners. We are the go-to people. When groups like ours work together, we make our communities a better place to live and work. There are employment and volunteer opportunities available for youth, and in doing so, they build their self-esteem, their self-confidence, and their resume. They are actively engaging themselves in learning and giving back while building themselves as individuals for life after high school. The relationship building between our youth and our seniors just warms the soul. There was a missing link in our community between those generations, and the need was identified. Our seniors were lonely, so we incorporated intergenerational learning into our program. Our seniors began to fill their idle time with storytelling, teaching traditional crafts, teaching traditional cooking, and in return, our youth were teaching them about technology. There was a bond being made, a connection being built, and they were no longer being referred to as them old fellows. It was now, Aunt Ann, she just makes the best molasses cookies. And it was no longer them young ones. It was now about Michael. He is just the sweetest young fellow. There were many types of transformations, and we saw and heard them. We witnessed both groups enjoyed spending each time together, and the benefit was very mutual. Our youth centers are a safe haven for youth to come, hang out with their peers in a very safe, non-judgmental environment. In our small rural communities, there was often nothing for the young people to do, which meant they got up to mischief just to fill the idle time and really not thinking about consequences. Back in the initial days of CYN, starting up in our community, there were 15 plus youth who were involved with the law in some manner. And within 24 months of the youth centers being established, the court docket had just 2 cases involving minors. The issue of youth engagement, of public policy, municipal governance, democratic process, community building, and the general civic involvement is a topic we need to continue. With globalization, continued technology adoption, communities need to ensure that they have the platforms, the processes and policies that foster and support youth involvement. Youth have a valuable contribution to make in their communities, right now and in the future. Have we made an impact in our communities? I believe we most certainly have. If you're hearing our name for the first time today, I recommend that you drop into any of our sites across the province and learn more about us. In closing, I will close with this African proverb: it takes a village to raise a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. And now, Colleen.
Good morning. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about Rosemont Cooperating Association and the importance of the Way Forward document for organizations like ours. We were formed in 1993 to support Parks Canada mandate. We had 1 partner and 1 employee, me. And we quickly realized that's not very sustainable, so within a year we changed it to incorporate community, which moved us to working in all of the province and right across Atlantic Canada. And today, we have 7 full-time employees and 35 seasonal. So 1 partner, 1 employee, definitely not sustainable. What I want to talk about is more of an economic spin than a social spin. Our group right now accesses over $1 million a year, or we generate about $1 million a year. 35% of that is self-generated by our organization. 20% is federal funding that we access provincially, and 35% is federal funding that's allowed for Atlantic Canada, and 10% is from the province. So I just want the Premier and our peers to know that we're a win-win investment. We're a great return on investment, so we want you to keep up understanding that we're not just a social group, we're also very much an economic group. We do work all across Atlantic Canada and share our success story and our failures. So we offer GMIS education programs and training, retail stores. So we have a full, broad spectrum of services that we offer that we'll get into tomorrow. But one of the largest challenges for organizations like us is funding. And I want to change the conversation to investment. Funding sounds like you're doing me a favor. Investment sounds like you're on my side and we're partners. So I think changing that conversation is very important. Also, Premier, you brought up multi-year funding. Well, multi-year funding is very important to us. We can plan better. It cuts down on our administration, which currently we can't get provincial funding to pay for. So it's very important for us to make people understand the importance of that 10% and also expanding that program to incorporate administration. Like many organizations, We see this document as moving us forward. We want flexibility in programs. We don't want to be writing proposals for funding that it's more about writing the proposal for the funding than actually doing the work. We want to do great work, but we want to be focused. The multi-year funding, like I said, it will cut down on administration and it will move us forward. Our organization is run by volunteers. They're very generous with their time, but they do need administrative support. My hope is that this work plan will educate both government and community and recognize the value of this sector and the importance of this sector. We need to put some weight behind who we are and get some recognition. HR is always an issue, so if we don't have good pay scales and benefits, we're going to be relying on a hell of a lot of passion, and I'm not sure that's going to move us in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Hassan?
Hello, good morning. I'll start off by saying beards are the least important part of what our organization is about, but it gets your attention, and that's what we wanted to happen. The Newfoundland Labrador Beard and Mustache Club, it's a mouthful, was formed just shy of 2 years ago. We were talking about accelerated growth. Well, we got off to a great start. Initially, our first meeting had one person show up. We sat at the Duke of Duckworth and each had fish and chips and looked at each other for an hour, and we went on our merry way. We grew exponentially. It was 4 people the next month. And from there, we did see some growth. We're probably best known for the Merbuys calendar, which has been in production now. We're on the 3rd calendar over 2 years. And through those, we've been able to raise a shocking amount of money from what our expectations were. We were hoping to raise maybe $1,000 and sponsor a horse feed for a year for Spirit Horse, and we ended up raising over $500,000 over 2 years. Oh. So, exciting things. So that funding, funding's the wrong term, that fundraising was able to support a mental health organization here in Newfoundland Labrador, and certainly changed the conversation about mental health in some significant way. Last year we were able to support Violence Prevention Newfoundland Labrador, a coalition of violence prevention organizations across the province. And this year we've been able to expand our footprint a little bit by supporting 3 charities. We have Planned Parenthood, Newfoundland Labrador, as well as Home Again Furniture Bank and the SPCA St. John's in a program targeting people trying to flee domestic abuse situations. Often the barrier is that their pets they are unable to leave, so they foster them and so they can move on to a safer situation. The club was actually founded on the premise of it being a social club. Again, facial hair not being important, it's gender inclusive, but a way for people to get together, promoting healthier expressions of masculinity, and also encouraging volunteering and volunteerism in the community. We do a lot of other things beyond the widely known Merbuys calendar, which is a monthly event, Haircuts for Hope, where we have volunteer barbers and stylists who offer free haircuts to people in our community who couldn't otherwise afford it in a stigma-free environment. We host quarterly blood drives to encourage blood product, organ, and stem cell donations. We were recently recognized nationally in an event in Ottawa with Canadian Blood Services for the blood drives we've been doing. But on an ongoing basis, what we're trying to do is elevate the platforms of other community groups that we support, and also raising the profiles of individuals within our organization who are doing great work in our community. We've been fortunate that we took some risks. Again, we didn't think a calendar of people, men taking their shirts off, putting tails on, would get very far. But it did, and here we are. And so it's afforded us a platform. We can have a great impact in this province. We've been able to sell almost 30,000 calendars internationally to over 30 countries. We're doing things we never thought possible, such as partnering with Come From Away, the New York production. That's coming up now, and there's some exciting things going forward. We do that without any funding, and in a daring thing, we're not really asking for funding. We just want to be able to keep doing the great work we're doing. What we would ask from the government is support in us figuring out how to do things. We don't have any infrastructure as such. We have a group of volunteers. There's no employees. There's no funding federally or provincially at all. So some support from people in this room as well as far as best practices, how we can scale this up. And that's where we're at. So thank you.
Thank you, Hassan, very much. I let him go for an extra 20 seconds because you couldn't possibly have anticipated all those laughs and the spontaneous applause
It was
for
overwhelming.
the $500,000. So there you go. So what I'll do, I'll turn things over to Penny. And Tim and Curtis, we're going to look for 7 minutes on the clock, please. And there'll be some questions now from the Premier and Minister of our panelists.
So, your choice. Flip a coin. Who's going to start?
All right, Penny, if you don't mind, I'll just get started first. This will be a conversation, I guess. We started with Lisa, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I've known Lisa a long time to see some of the great work she's been doing in the area, and certainly with the youth networks across the province. But I'd be curious, you touched on it briefly about competition, especially amongst young people. It's not just young people either. Is, you know, how do you get people engaged in an area, because you got a big area too, it's widespread. How do you get people, there's competition with, you know, things like technology and the internet, and people want to spend time playing games. How do you get them so actively involved in your network?
Bring food.
Or as we like to say, it's all about the hand.
No, it's all about, you know, they're engaged in the activities that we're doing. So, you know, it's their ideas. They're the ones talking about the programs that they want in their centers. It's them. It's all about them. So, you know, they're involved right from the very beginning. And so when we're doing a program, it's because they want this program to happen. It's their idea, and we're just bringing it forward. So.
Yeah, so one quick question, and before I turn it over to John here, is when you get that level of engagement, you get people in a room, you get, you know, the numbers of people that are showing up to your meetings and so on, that level of engagement. You know, how much of the discussion, because we're seeing this, you know, so much amongst young people in the schools or K-12 system, no matter where you go, there's a lot of bullying that happens and a lot of peer pressure. You know, what kind of conversations are you having, you know, with the people that are coming to your network around peer pressure, around bullying, around mental health, and so on? I'd be curious to get some insights into that.
Those issues are definitely alive and well. And, you know, again, it's through partnerships that we build, and, you know, you're out there, you're trying to make a difference. In our small communities, when you talk about mental health, there's such a stigma attached to it. So it's not only educating the young ones, it's educating the adults in the community and getting them on board. So it's never a dull moment, and there's lots of struggles, and we'll just continue to move forward and to keep pressing at it. There's not an easy fix. But I think together we can make a difference.
Thanks, Premier. It's interesting with a panel like this, you think, well, it's really diverse, but I think where you stand actually kind of depends on where you sit. And thanks to the Premier, I sit in the Department of Health. So you have a group who are talking about fundraising in novel ways at a time where it's a real challenge, but you bring in things like toxic masculinity, and I think that's a really interesting topic, which probably doesn't get as much play. You talk about an economic driver for Gross Mourne, but in actual fact, we heard Elder Emma at the beginning talk about, you know, the therapeutic effects of the country and the land and that healing element. And then we have a much more obviously kind of mental health focused group of rescuing folk from the court docket. So, I mean, health in all policies, really, this is a kind of living testament to it. One of the challenges I've heard brought up, and I'll address this to Hassan, really, is around men's health. There has been quite reasonably an emphasis on women's health, but I've heard from places like the Murphy Centre that, you know, men's mental health and you know, this concept of toxic masculinity is topical at the moment. And I just wonder, from where you stand, Hassan, what you see your challenges are around trying to deal with that and do it from the perspective you stand in.
Great question. One of the challenges is actually connecting with people. The people that need to hear the message. So when we use the term toxic masculinity, it is an accurate term. It's one that causes a lot of people to check out. They feel that they're personally attacked. What we are trying to use more is healthier expressions of masculinity. And not that one term is inherently wrong, but the people, again, who need to hear it are tuning out from that. Men and male-presenting humans need to be part of the solution, be part of the conversation. Certainly it can't just be other people having those conversations. We have the great privilege of being, I mean, even though we're an inclusive organization, it is skewed towards men and male-identifying people, that having those conversations and engaging other men in ways that they are comfortable connecting. Not all of it is public. We can certainly have these conversations behind closed doors. We're looking at having sort of men's groups and discussions of men's issues in a healthy, safe environment. Men, unfortunately, have been trained and conditioned through society, culturally, across many cultures, to not express themselves in healthy ways. I think it's so important to be having these conversations and be meeting people where they are. There's people who want to do better, who feel that they're good people and aren't intentionally harming others or themselves, but their actions and how they view the world and how they express themselves are ultimately most harmful to themselves, first and foremost. And in some cases, unfortunately, it leads to harm to others.
Colleen, you mentioned multi-year funding and the idea of a partnership. And of course, we've been the first provincial government that will ever do what we've done. We have 22 that we already have in place now. Most of them, I think 9 of them deal with status of women, and people deal with some of the challenges that we face within our society. If you had multi-year funding right now, and I mean this is something that we're actually analyzing right now, the success of the first 22. I agree with you. People spend too much time filling out applications. This is the reason why we got where we are today, is people were spending a lot of time filling out applications when their time would have been better directed at frontline services. Also, it adds some stability to the human resource side, which many. But where is the biggest opportunity that you see? Because you are very different. It's almost a bit of a social enterprise. Where's the biggest opportunity for you so you can actually become more self-sufficient? And actually, that $1 million that you're using, because I believe that you can get there almost without any government supports.
For multi-year funding for our organization, especially around the creative side and the arts side, it's huge. It's really important because you plan better, you spend better, you do better business plans, and you're more stable. I mean, somebody like TNL or Don or Rising Tide, it gives them the ability to plan ahead, do better, and do more with their money. So for me, most of my stuff is multi-year, thank you very much, and I do, but for the larger group, when we were going over some of the biggest challenges, it was around doing the paperwork, and the biggest challenge around some of that too is the administration side. We don't recognize the value of the staff hours that's going in, and for a lot of our groups, that was the 10% that we would have to come up with from a community-based group, so we would put in our administration fee. And then we would donate that administration fee back as our in-kind contribution. And without that, now they actually have to get out and try to find that 10% somewhere else. And I think it's been a real challenge for a lot of the arts groups and the arts community to move their agenda forward because of that. You can get that.
I think you're going to be moving the panels now, Bettina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Did you have any?
I was, as people are moving, I thought I might be able to speak over that transition.
Well, we'd like to thank everybody. We'd like to thank everyone. We'd ask the Premier to remain on stage, please, and thank you very much to our Group 1 of panelists. Thank you.
Colleen?
Thank you very much. Come on, sister.
What I wanted to say was, in the year 2004, there was the first, the last, it's never been done again, monster survey done by Statistics Canada that 7 or 8 of us acted as researchers on. And after all of this work with the thousands of organizations, the most important point that organizations said was the biggest barrier for them in doing their work was the inability to have long-term planning. So we have that statistically proven now in this survey, and it is so evident that it's this inability for long-term planning that eats up resources in a non-productive way, but also causes people not to be able to do as much good as they could.
Thank you, Penny. So our next group of panelists, group number 2, I'd like to invite them to the stage. I'd first like to ask to join the Premier. We have Minister Christopher Mitchell-Moore with Advanced Education Skills and Labour. So Minister, you can join the Premier. Thank you. And I was told that it was perfectly acceptable for me to introduce him this way by himself, Minister Bernie Davis. He's a great friend of the CSC, and he said, these are my people, so we can affectionately call him Bernie. He, of course, is the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation. And joining these 3 on stage, we have Carol Ann Harding. Carol Ann is the Executive Director of Smart Ice. Carol Ann. And we have Libby Angel, who's with the Association for New Canadians, specifically the Social Enterprise Food Truck. And we have Sean Wiltshire, CEO of Avalon Employment. So, as we get going, each of the panelists, again, will have 3 minutes. So I'll ask Tim and Curtis, as Carol Ann gets going, if you could start her timer, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. All yours, Carol Ann.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So back in 2009, 2010, in Nunatsiavut, in February month, it was a disastrous month for the weather. And my mic is not on, so I get to start again.
You do. You do. You get 10 extra seconds.
All right, here we go. Hi, good morning, everybody. So in the winter of 2009, 2010, the Nunatsiavut area within our province experienced massive climate change havoc. And Dr. Trevor Bell, the founding director of Smart Ice, was asked by the Nunatsiavut government to come help with the solution of the climate change. So what was happening was ice was unpredictable. 1 in 12 people were going through the ice, some losing their lives, some losing their machines, which part of there's no machines for their livelihood. And 75% of those people could no longer predict the ice conditions. So it used to be, for example, you were good to go out on the ice on November 1st throughout the Arctic, and you're good till June. And now in the Nunatsiavut, it might be January to May. And so because climate change is real, and climate change, we don't know what the weather is going to be like from one day to the next, we had to come up with some solutions. So let's fast forward to 2016, when Dr. Trevor Bell and his team applied for an Arctic Inspiration Prize and won a $400,000 grant to start a social enterprise, which is where it brings us till today. So Smart Ice is a not-for-profit social enterprise. We're the world's first climate change adaptation tool company that takes remote sensing and combines it with Inuit traditional knowledge. I don't know a lot about the ice, but you know the people in the Nunatsiavut know a lot about the ice because the ice is important to them for a variety of means. But what makes us unique is that while we're a tech startup company, we are also a social enterprise that helps train and employ Inuit youth within their community. We have a workshop here in St. John's where we partner with Choices for Youth. Our youth programs really take vulnerable youth and specifically Inuit youth within their communities and help them. And you can see in the picture here behind us, this is cohort number 1, where 7 youth learned how to make our high-tech buoys in Nain, not here in St. John's, but in Nain. And so these buoys are going to be exported all across the Arctic, and we're looking, of course, into some in the United States, which is Alaska. So what makes us quite unique is that most people they don't think of a tech startup as being with social enterprise and a not-for-profit. And don't get me wrong, I got to make all the money I can make, even though I'm a not-for-profit, because I have to fund my social enterprise piece of it, which is to help train and employ these Inuit youth. So with the help of some government agencies, such as the 2 gentlemen to my right, which is ASL and TCII, I have funding from the government to be able to help us do that. So we are unique. We're pretty happy about it. And this new cohort, we've got one cohort that just graduated in August in Nain, and we've got another cohort graduating this week. So we're very proud of the work that we do. It's really different, and we're loving it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I will take the mic back, and do you just want to give yours a tap to see if it's working there now? No, okay. So when it comes time for questions, this is for you.
Oh, thank you.
When it comes time for questions, I'll pass the mic back to you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, Libby.
Thank you. So the Association for New Canadians is a nonprofit community-based organization dedicated to the vision of settlement and integrated services for immigrants and refugees in Newfoundland and Labrador for the past 40 years. Social enterprise is and has been a strategic priority for the ANC, and in 2019, with support from IRCC and OIM, the Global Eats food truck project was launched. The willingness to undertake a risk on something completely different outside of our core programming led us to this innovative initiative.
The pilot training program focused on developing language and culinary skills for employment in the food services industry, while also promoting entrepreneurship among the newcomers. There was a first cohort of 12 participants. 8 have never worked in Canada, and 7 of the participants were visual minority women. There was a 14-week culinary training program with a partner organization, and that was supported by an ESL instructor, and 50 hours on the job, but both in the commissary kitchen and on the food truck. The menu was developed with input from participants from 6 countries. And initially, the plan was to attend festivals, but it grew into having base location and opening during lunch hours. We actually operated for about 26 days. This model was testing the market, along with being on the cusp of a social enterprise. What we can clearly say today is the social impacts have been more rewarding than ever anticipated. The training opportunity provided newcomers the ability to attend a structured college program that they would have otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to attend. And the cohort was motivated to succeed. There was barriers to employment were removed and resulted in the 7 visible minority women with gainful employment. Collaboration, along with drawing on the diversity and capability of the team, was an innovative menu to offer to the general public, and this was truly a positive result. Participants survey talked about empowerment, confidence in their English skills, and better prepared to consider a home-based business. The team also felt better overall sense of belonging, which is one of the keys to improving settlement outcomes and increasing retention rates in our province. There was many partnerships built and other ones strengthened as we worked through this project. We were also invited by many businesses to serve lunch for their employees, and we're expecting that this will grow again next year. When Seamus O'Regan visited us for our launch, here is a quote from Seamus. "This is more than just a food truck. It's a classroom for English and entrepreneurship and service and industry skills that will allow new immigrants here to find employment and to create employment. And the food is fantastic." Community engagement was large. We served over 1,000 customers with a cuisine that many people hadn't tried before, all been given a rating of a 5-star. Where else would you find a wicked falafel wrap served with the biggest smile than out of a food truck? It created public awareness and promoted the benefit of a diverse community. It helped debunk the myth that refugees want to be on social assistance. The pilot program continues to achieve IRCC's objectives of improving the overall settlement goals of newcomers and securing employment for minority women, and the need to increase retention in the province as highlighted in the way forward. In terms of the organization outcomes, this project provided the ANC with the opportunity to engage with the broader public. Hello. That was a way new and different. And it gave our clients a real sense of pride. We currently have 40 people on our wait list. So we will be doing an evaluation, and then we're going to determine if this will be just a training program or a solid revenue stream for the organization. Our dream is perhaps it will be both. So in terms of the conclusion, what we really need some support in is our long-term vision to bring all of our operations under one hub through a center of excellence for employees, as a site to engage with our partners, to foster, test, and innovate new ideas and approaches, and to better support the immigrant community in our province. We look forward to collaboration with provincial and federal governments. Thank you. And thank you for the time.
See, what happened is that Libby was initially scared, and then I confessed that I would not electrocute anybody. She said, pressure's off. Okay. Thank you, Libby. And Sean, for you, 3 minutes
I was
on the
threatened
clock.
with electric shock. I guarantee you I was. My name is Sean Wilshire. I work at Avalon Employment. I may not be able to go to the moon, but I can help build a ship. Describes what we as an organization do. It's not about everybody being on an oil rig. It's not everybody about being in a mine. It's about helping people find long-term paid employment. Typically, the folks that we serve 25 years ago would have been institutionalized. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador and Canada termed a lot of the folks that I work with as unemployable. When you have a demographic situation such as we do in Newfoundland and Labrador, the employment of everybody is important, not only in service industry, but immigration strategy. So what we do, and for an example, we had 643 people province-wide with an intellectual or developmental disability go to work in paid employment. Paid, just like everybody else, tax-paying Canadian citizen. We had over 1,426 people in the province go through a program that said, you're valuable, we'll meet you where you are, and we'll help you find a job. This is about giving people the opportunity to be a fully participating citizen by having a job. What's great about this is that we've been around for over 35 years. Our organization, Avalon Employment, has been here for 28 years, so I've been there since I'm 12. We have a lot of networks across the province. Minister, you have one in your own district in Deer Lake. Premier, you've been heavily involved in support employment long before you got involved with politics. So it's a program that people know. It's in your community. The people that we're supporting are your brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins, and are doing real work. Avalon Employment provided over 50,000 hours of paid employment last year alone. In our over almost 30 years, we've done well over 1 million hours. So when I hear about a GBS being built or a program being built and it's going to produce this many hours of employment, I like to relate it back to our organization. I think the other thing that we have to talk about is we are a committed group of individuals. I'm very pleased to say that a lot of the folks that are my colleagues at my organization have been with me for a very long time. So Krista and Shelley and Pam and Bernadette and Vanessa and Michelle and Bernadette and Christina have all been at the organization for 20 years, 25 years, pushing 30 years. And we care about what happens. Some people say, Sean, the goal of your organization is to close the file. Well, I would say to you, my job is to never close the file, because if it's never closed, the person is always working. When you don't think you make an impact, we live in Newfoundland, not Disneyland, as I tell people. I live on a rock in the middle of the North Atlantic. This program that we have was translated into 9 languages, and I took it to Bangladesh, Nepal, and India to work with women asset survivors and people with disabilities. And it won an international award at the UN for innovative ways to do things. That was here. The biggest national disability conference in the country, which is held every June, was started by a group of people in this room. And the last thing I'd like to say is kudos to you guys for coming out, but real thanks to the people inside of government who I've worked with for 30 years. And I think it says a lot when I can say, Bryn, Joanne, Marilyn, the people in your department, I know them by first name, so it's a relationship, and I think it's a two-way street, so thank you. Oh, sorry. Minister, I just wanted to ask, I know you're going to get a lot of things today, and many people. The Premier knows who I am, but I just wanted to give you my business card. In case you didn't know where to find me. And what we do is on the back.
Pretty good.
Here you go. Well, thank you very, very much to the panel. And what we'll do now, we'll get 7 minutes on the clock, please. And this is an opportunity for the ministers and the Premier to ask some questions of our panel. And I'll pass this mic along to you.
And as we're getting ready for our first question, let me remind you again that you have cards on your chairs. You're to write your questions on those, and we will be collecting those at the break, and the questions will then come back to all the panelists and all of the ministers. So make sure you have a good question or two that we can focus on. Premier.
So I'll just make an opening comment, Sean. It's kind of directed to your to the work that you're doing, and you'd mentioned that obviously this is something that I had some experience in. I want to mention to people out there that would know people in the business world. I want to say this to you, is that the impact that it has on your business. When I first got involved in this, there was really this was a brand new idea. This wasn't something that was happening. But I quickly learned that this wasn't just bringing people in and giving them an opportunity to go to work. This had a major impact. I will tell you, our customers, when I first got involved in this, our customers would come in and ask for the particular employee that we have because they're excited to come to work. Also, the impact, and it just brought the culture of the workplace up because people were so excited about it. So it's not a question, it's more of a comment. You're doing fantastic work. Caroline, I would like to go to you just for a few minutes. So you mentioned Smart Ice, one of the great work that you do. We all were very much aware of it and how that will expand into some of a social enterprise for you. You know, there's got to be ideas when you look at climate change right now, based on the experience you have. Is there anything at all that you see in the next generation of where you are? You impact other things. I mean, we're seeing permafrosts that are having significant impact on infrastructure as being built in the north, Arctic sovereignty as an example. All of this fits into some of the work that you're doing. Is there anything at all that you'd like to share with in terms of insights of where this could go?
That's no hard question there. Well, now. Well, let's think about this. People that live in the north are really the scientists of the north. And so if you're going to solve problems in the north, it's really that you need to engage with these people that live in the north. So that's your first and foremost, engage with those people. And then as they discover what's happening in their communities with climate change, then they can seek out other organizations to help them. And with their traditional knowledge, in whatever community they're in, from Nunatsiavut, Nunavik, Nunavut, wherever, from east to west, they are the ones that know it better than anybody. So take that, like we're doing with technology, and combining it with that. We're only adding value to their Inuit knowledge. And that's the group that we mostly work with, is the Inuit. And you combine all that together, and then you've got a win-win. So my message is you engage with them, and you bring the technology together and add value.
One of the things I would ask, too, is because we get a chance to sit at a lot of tables. Not a lot of other premiers would have, you know, the types of experience that we would have in Newfoundland and Labrador about engagement in the north. One of the things that we have to do, and I'll tell you this is very difficult when you sit at those tables, in just making the difference between what's north of 60 and south of 60. And south of 60, we are having the significant impact on climate change, but yet, if you're not north of 60, there's a lot of programs that you can't take available of. So I appreciate the partnership and some of the shared voices that we need to make that our voices a little louder in that south of 60 matters as well.
Well, we're very grateful for the partnership, but we have, you know, every day is a new day, and we're always striving for something new. So we will be calling again.
Thank you.
And more.
So who's asking the next question, Christopher or Bernie?
I can go. I've had the pleasure of working with all three groups in different ways, for sure. I got to sample the global elites, for sure. It looks like I've sampled a bunch of it. It's great. Oh, Mike is not on? How lucky were you?
Vanna.
Thank you. I've had the pleasure, I'll mention again, I've had the pleasure of working with all three groups over the past number of years, and they do fantastic work. And one of the things Sean said that was really good is success can be measured in so many different ways. And I believe that, you know, making sure someone takes a few less trips to the hospital and feels part of the process is huge. And I know that three organizations have done some fantastic work in ensuring those individuals, those barriers to employment and barriers to entering the community are reduced. So one of the, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to meet one of the young people that worked with Smart Ice. Sam, I'll never forget it. I was over at Choices for Youth I think it was the first day I was a minister, actually, of Advanced Education, Skills and Labour. Yep. And I got to meet Sam, and it was a life-changing speech she gave, because she's come so far to make those inroads she did, and she was very happy to come forward and tell me about it. And without any details, it was just an amazing story. And I think that's the kind of things that as a government we want to try to make an impact in. And the question is, I guess could be answered by all three, is what can we do as a government to help you reduce those barriers? And I know we're trying to do that with the plans we put in place, but what do you see as some things we can actually move on a little bit even more, which would be great, right? I see the hand go up.
Patience. Very much required. When you're dealing with, and our youth programs are predominantly, 18 to 30, we require patience, and we require patience from our funders. Things don't happen overnight. When dealing with other jurisdictions above the 60, as you say, If you think it might take a month, it might take a year. We consulted for almost 2 solid years before we got on the ground in name. And every bit of those minutes that we needed to consult was required. So it's patience. And the tolerance for risk, but patience. Oh, you got it, Mike. Holding this one.
Is my mic on?
Okay.
We're good. I want to thank the panelists for your contributions here. It just speaks to the diversity that we have in the community sector in Newfoundland and Labrador, from using research and development for solutions around climate change in the north, partnering with Indigenous governments, as well as the connectivity of using Food Truck as a training program for new Canadians to be able to learn skills where they can either start their own business and entrepreneurship. I had the pleasure, one of my first days as minister, to see the graduation of the Global Eats Food Truck, and talking to some of the people who went through the program. It was so impactful to see how they either started their own business, they're working, or that they've developed skills. And one thing that I learned while I was the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation is there are significant job opportunities, especially in the hospitality sector. And the more we can partner and expand these types of programs that generate revenue is helpful to many sectors and can help strengthen our economy. And Sean, thank you for your business card. I'm looking forward to working with you because I know how important supportive employment is in Newfoundland and Labrador. What I would ask, I guess, as a question is around being able to access the people that are currently unemployed, that pool that we need to tap. What more can government do to help reach people who have significant potential to be employed in our labor force? Because there are vacancies and there are incredible opportunities to do business here.
I think you've done two things current. You've continued to support the program's growth, so more people going to work. And actually, 82% of the population of Newfoundland and Labrador live within a 30-minute drive of an agency that could help them, if they had an intellectual or developmental disability, find employment. Multi-year funding, I know we've talked about, I know it's coming. We've already had it, so we kind of know how it works. And I think that focusing on those successes so that we can continue to tell the story, because it is an investment. And I should say, a good portion of the money comes from the federal government. So it's, again, it's those 50-cent dollars people like to talk about where we get them. So I think that the response over the last number of years has been good. The program has continued to receive increments of increase. And I'm always hesitant to say, like, people say, well, you got more money. No, more people went to work. And that's what we want to talk about. I mean, when the unemployment rate in Newfoundland drops like it did last month, and it's not because more people went to work, it's because there's less people here, we know that the demographic issues are challenging us. So, kudos to what you've done. Let's continue to do more of the same.
Great way to end the panel.
Thank you very much to our second group of panelists.
Sorry you didn't get part of the second turn.
So I will ask the Premier to remain on stage, please. So the Premier is going to remain on stage. As Penny noted earlier, we're going to go ahead with group number 3 before we take a break. So for group number 3, joining the Premier on stage, we have Minister Lisa Dempster with Children, Seniors and Social Development, Minister. And we also have Parliamentary Secretary Sarah Studley. So you can join them on stage. There we go. Thank you. And our panelists, we have Selena Stoyles, who's Executive Director with Kids Eat Smart Foundation. Selena. And Rowena House, who is Executive Director of the Newfoundland and Labrador Craft Council. And we have Liz Lasaga, who is the Chief Executive Officer and Band Manager with the Flat Bay Band. Liz, here we go. So we have 3 minutes here on the clock, and Selena, you're up first. Good morning. Want to just check your mic? Hello? Test. Should I just?
Oh,
there we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there's 10 seconds already gone.
Okay, I noticed.
Good morning. I just want to share with you that Kids Eat Smart Foundation Newfoundland and Labrador was formed over 25 years ago in a response to a need, and that was to feed poor children in schools. Today, Kids Eat Smart clubs provide a wider mandate, and our goal is to ensure that every child who comes to school has access to healthy food for whatever reason they come to school hungry. Our clubs are built on a community model of school, community support, and volunteers. They are at the heart of local development. Our school food program is non-stigmatizing, available for all school-age children at no cost to the child or their family. Our 255 clubs operated in this province, we rely on the dedication of over 6,200 volunteers. We serve over 31,000 meals every school day, and last year we served 5.3 million meals. Kids Eat Smart clubs are so important, and important is how we design them, deliver them, and sustain them, and most importantly, understanding the real impact that they have on the people in communities and cities and towns in our province. We're known as the Breakfast Club for feeding children. However, we may overlook the value, the immense value that these clubs bring, not only to our children, but to our entire community. So in terms of social impact on a school level, our clubs provide socialization for children who wander in and wonder how they fit in school. Where do they fit in? We've heard from principals that some kids would drift in the hallways in the mornings and not interact with their friends. But the club, it provided them a sense of belonging. They often describe the Kids Eat Smart Club as the one constant in the child's life. In our communities, our club provides a social outlet for people, especially the seniors, the unemployed, or persons with disabilities who volunteer, and also to those organizations who want to give back. Providing breakfast for children gives volunteers a satisfaction that they are making a difference and a meaningful contribution in the lives of children. Volunteers, they become our ambassadors. Our volunteers tell us that they learn from our clubs. They learn about the importance of healthy eating and what a nutritious breakfast looks like. Volunteers are also students. They're our youth and our children, and they're learning real-life skills like leadership and responsibility, which may not be taught in the classroom. They learn to shop with a budget, scheduling, supervision, and collaboration with others. Fundraising, or I guess financially sustaining a club, means that schools must commit to asking for support. Last year, throughout Newfoundland and Labrador, our schools raised approximately $1.4 million to locally sustain their breakfast clubs. And you know what? That's great news, because we encourage to purchase locally to support the communities that support our clubs, and it's that simple. Through donor sponsorship, our foundation has been able to invest locally in traditional media, printed signs, banners, events, fundraising campaigns, staff training, and professional development. Yes, there are challenges. There's food delivery, food cost, fundraising, especially in our coastal and rural communities in Labrador. However, as a community-based organization, our foundation will sustain the viability of our clubs with the partnerships that we continue to build with our schools, our donors, volunteers, supporters, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Selena. Rowena, you're up.
The Craft Council of Newfoundland and Labrador is the provincial industry association for craft in the province and is supported by the Department of Tourism, Cultural Industry and Innovation, or as we like to call them, TCII. We've been around since 1972 and have been working in the community sector since then. Now to some things that you may not have known. Craft is one of the several strategic sectors of our economy to support growth and diversification. There are some 350 to 400 identified core participants in the craft sector that have benefited from our networking and training. This core group represents the professional industry of full and part-time practicing craftspeople. However, we know that this number is not as accurate as we would hope, and there are so many more craftspeople that are creating, selling, and participating in this economy. It is clear that the cultural industry relies heavily on the craft sector, and it is a strong contributor to the overall economic development of the province. An estimated total output of craft producers of $36.3 million in 2016 and a total GDP benefit to the Newfoundland economy of $30.9 million, with $17.8 million in specific labor income, supporting around 1,763 jobs. Those are the facts. As a social enterprise, we need our supporters to understand that in order to develop and grow as an organization, we have to be able to take the risks. We want their support and continued understanding that many of these aspects of our business model are very different than the traditional business model and the government business model that currently exists. Our model is based on the artistic business model, with only a small portion of craftspeople actually making a living wage. But with continued support, we want to change that thinking in an attempt to surpass the overall arching goal of the specific craft industry strategy of 40 million to output of 2021. So what are the challenges? First, we believe the challenge for our sector was to recognize as adding value to the overall economic picture. But with the metrics we have given, it is clear that this has been proven. Although this also still remains a challenge, not everyone believes they are contributing. And how many times have we heard, well, my nan makes quilts, and she's not a craftsperson. Second challenge was to build a sector. To demonstrate, let me take you back to 1991. 28 years ago, minimum wage was $4.75, Facebook was 13 years away, and Terminator 2 just hit the theaters. We had been around for 19 years. We were set to open our shop and our gallery and clay studio and had already hosted 18 large crafts fairs. There was no farmers market, and there was only 1 or 2 large craft fairs in the province, and a handful of places that would sell somebody's handmade work. Craft was called handicrafts and was sold at less than fair prices or given away by your nan to anyone who wanted it. We fast forward to today. There's at least 2 to 3 craft fairs per weekend from October to December, just in St. John's Mount Pearl, with the conservative sales numbers of about 2.79 million. And that number does not include any retail shops or community markets in the rural communities. There are 4 to 5 platforms online to sell craft, including Facebook, Etsy, and Instagram. Record numbers of tourists are arriving for that special experience, and now your nan is actually showing them how to knit and crochet or hook a rug. This sector has exploded in the last 20 years to what we have seen today, and we are honored to have been a significant contributor to that growth. To clue it up, I think we have not only helped in the creation and longevity of this sector, we have also helped define, mold, and change it as it grew into a well-recognized economic contributor. So take some time while you're here, meet your makers, and discover what it means to be handcrafted. At the Craft Council of Newfoundland and Labrador, we are a strong and proven organization, and we have shown the ability to advance excellence in craft for the economic and cultural benefit of the province. And say hello to Nan. She might be too busy with them tours.
Thank you very much, Rowena. And now we have Liz. And Liz, would you like to give your mic a tap just to make sure it's working on the lapel up here?
Working?
There we go, it's working. So you have your 3 minutes now.
Thank you. The Flat Bay Band is the oldest band on the island portion of Newfoundland, and we helped found the Federation Newfoundland Indians, which founded Alipu First Nations, and we also helped found the Conn River Reserve. We're a small community, but we're old, and we're the most active, one of the most active bands on the island portion of Newfoundland, major service employer. We actually, we're a 99% Native population in our community, but also we actually are the only band left in Canada now that self-governs our community without any core budget. I was chief for 13 years and retired just this year, and I laugh. The reason I say that I'm band manager / CEO is because traditionally band manager would actually be the proper title, but people ask me, well, what kind of a music band do I manage? So I say, well, no, let's go with CEO now, you understand. The core of our band is the family unit. In Indigenous profiles, the family unit is actually what makes a society. The thing is that, you know, we're at a crisis right now where we have youth with addictions and seniors with depression and families having to live and work away in Alberta, so many of them who want to be home. Our community, we range right all over Canada. We have members all over the globe, but we also mentor all over the island. We mentor other bands as well. The thing that we want to do is to be able to bring families home if they want to come home, and our families should have a right and an ability to be able to work in the province and have grandma babysit the children if that's what they think is the right thing. We're a major impact. The province has worked really well with us over the years. We hire about 55 to 60 people a year. We run the Dajigig Center, which is a model for the Federal Public Health Agency. We actually host the largest powwow in Canada, actually, one of the largest. And we formed the Newfoundland Alliance of Rural Mi'kmaq Nations last fall, where we mentor and help the other rural bands in the area to write projects. And we're responsible for every program from cradle to grave. We're right now looking at building experiences, Indigenous experiences through tourism, all year round tourism, so that we can hopefully employ our people and help, some of the seniors around be able to do a few things and earn some money. And that's what we're all about. We're here to enrich the lives of our community, and but mostly as well to engage and help the other bands across the island, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And Liz, might I point out that you were the only panelist who said thank you before the screen turned pink? I secretly, I have a present for you, okay? She really paid attention. Not to fault the other panelists, you all did okay. So what we'll do now is we're going to put 7 minutes on the clock, and this is an opportunity for the Parliamentary Secretary, Minister, and Premier to have some questions of our panel.
I just wanted to say to Liz that when we were building up toward the Community Sector Action Plan, we hosted one of the sessions in Flat Bay, which was a wonderful experience.
Well, great. 3 great introductions to some people about the great work you're doing, Selena. There's one question I'll get right to you before I turn it over to Lisa and Sarah. Within the last year or so, we've had some changes within the Canada Food Guide, and I'd just be curious to know what kind of impact that have had on your Kids Eat Smart program, and what happens. Has there been any noticeable changes that you're actually seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the hallmark of all of our Kids Eat Smart clubs and the breakfast clubs is that we've consistently tried to serve milk every day, a healthy whole grain, fruit, and protein, so yogurt and cheese and eggs. And I think what we've decided to do, and we're working very closely with the Department of Children, Seniors, and Social Development, is that we've taken on a pilot project in 11 schools throughout Newfoundland and Labrador to try and ascertain what it's going to look like using the new school food guideline, how that would affect the shoppers, how it affects the students, the perception of the parents, and having the whole school environment supported. So right now, all indicators are positive. So very happy that you asked that, because I think healthy eating is critically important to all of us who live and work and play in this province.
Thank you. Let me start by saying what an incredible privilege to be sitting on stage with 4 strong.
We have a mic.
Hello? Testing? Yes. Thank you. What an honor to take the stage this morning with 4 strong women here. Premier, what a great start to your week. Always proud when we see women in leadership roles, and sometimes I want to throw structure out the window because I'd love to ask all 3 of you questions, but I'll try and play by the rules, and I'll ask my question to Rowena, although I've sat at tables in different capacities at different times in my life with all 3. Rowena, I'm here as minister, but I represent a rural district, and when I drive through my riding, like I just did, from Cartwright in the north right up to Lanceclair, I'm always amazed, no different than many of your rural places around the province, with the incredible talent. Whether it's Aunt Martha who's making a quilt a week, or whether it's Guy in Lodge Bay where your roots come from, making these snowshoes and birch brooms and right on through. We haven't begun, I don't think, to tap into that yet. We could be subsidizing incomes, and when they do sell it, they sell it for much less than the value. Where's your focus going forward, or how do you see us continuing to make progress in that area?
Well, I think am I on here? Yeah, okay. So I think the craft sector overall is such a very large sector, and it's only really, we're just tapping into it. We've been around for 47 years, and we're just at the beginning, because it is such a geographically challenging location when it comes to how do you get those products from Lodge Bay, or how do you get the projects from Nunatsiavut out to the the many millions of people that want them. And there's so many things that are in the way of that. There's so many roadblocks. Not only when it comes to funding, and we all say about the funding, but there's other bigger roadblocks. Like there's a roadblock when it comes to freight, and there's a roadblock to, am I really a craftsperson? You know, my mother, who has knit for us for absolutely ever, she still doesn't believe that she's a craftsperson. I'm not a business. I just make quilts for you guys. That's it. So it's changing that mindset and the thinking around that to make it more of an industry, a bigger industry, but it's also having those supports throughout the province and having little divisions of us in as many communities as we can possibly have. And all of the quilting guilds and all of the different guilds, you know, to come together to have that ability to be able to strengthen the economy, because we are a big supporter. I mean, there's 1,700 jobs, and that's nothing to laugh about. You know, $36 million going back into the pockets of so many craftspeoples across. We haven't even touched on what we can do with the Indigenous economy. So we have a lot of things that we need to do, and that's just the start, really.
Thank you. Hello, am I on mic? Yes, I'm good, okay. Thank you. I'm Sarah, the president for Liz. It's very nice to meet you. Last night I came to the conference, and there were great presentations by Bruce and Sean. I learned quite a lot. A big theme around innovation and a big theme about how, I guess, the sector adapts and how we all adapt together and work together. I guess we have 10 to 15 years to kind of tap into different kind of a demographic of donors. And I guess, Liz, you talked a lot about how you've been innovating, how you're kind of band manager and CEO, where you had that title as well. And you talked about Indigenous experiences through tourism. I was just wondering if you could, I guess, tell us how you merge the traditional and the new, and for your band, how you kind of innovate, because it seems like you've done an amazing job with that.
Thank you. We're sort of old and kind of new as well with tourism. Our powwow is about 15 years old now. We've gone through 14 powwows. And so people come from all over the globe. So tourism for us was something that we didn't really seek out. It's something that's happening by natural progression, because the people from all over the globe that are coming, they're asking for experiences now, or they want to come different times of the year. So just in order to even just meet that demand, we knew we had to move into tourism. The idea, what is hot now in tourism is nobody's come to Newfoundland for the weather, right? They're coming for experiences. And so for those who are interested in Indigenous experiences, we call it a sophisticated and authentic. So this is where you bring in the old and the new, sort of. People want to come in, for example, if they want to come to Flat Bay in the winter, February, they can actually come at any given time. We want to build an itinerary where they can see what's happening at any given time in Flat Bay. So maybe it's to go down to Sheila Bennett's to learn how to make bread, or to my dad's to learn how to render bear fat, or the powwow. But for example, if they come in to do ice fishing and they catch their smelt, they want that authentic experience, but they also might want it with a culinary sophisticated. Maybe they want a nice wine to go with it and that type thing. So we're trying to meet the authentic and the sophisticated. What we do best, we can't change that. We don't want to change that, but we want to add a little bit of sophistication with it. So culinary goes a long way, of course.
And I'd like to put you in touch on that one about adding the wine to our friend David Smallwood in Corner Brook. He could be a big help.
Yes, right.
If I could, just briefly for a few seconds, Liz has been very modest. I've been to the powwow a few times, as Liz would know, and what you do in Flat Bay is you turn a community of a few hundred people to a few thousand people on a given weekend, usually in July, I guess say. And so that's what happens in the smaller community in Flat Bay, because Liz and others, some of the elders, have been able to promote this over the last decade and plus. So if you ever get the opportunity, I'll throw the picture out there now. We have powwows that occur across our province in Conne River and in Flat Bay. It is a great experience. So don't be so modest.
Wonderful. Well, we'd like to thank panel number 3 very, very much for your time and for your questions. Thank you. So round of applause. So at this time, we're going to invite everybody to take a break. We have about 15 minutes. I'll remind everybody to leave your questions on your chair. And during the break, people are going to go around, collect these up, and we're going to put a good lineup of questions together for our panelists and our government representatives. So there's some coffee outside, and we'll see you back here in 15 minutes.
But
Thank
Tina,
you.
I'm going to suggest if people know they have cards, they could just put up their hands. That might make the collection a bit faster.